Good morning. It's still morning. It's good to see everybody this morning. I hate to be predictable, but my predictable thing that I have to say every time I get up to speak is that I love you. And I love this church family. And if you're a guest here this morning, I love you. Thank you for being with us. Thank you for caring about your family, about the church. Thank you for caring about parenting and grandparenting. You are loved by this group of people, and the job that you're doing, the job that we are doing, is a hard job, isn't it? And we're doing it in such a weird time. My topic is not mystery milk. That is not my topic. My topic this morning, that is wisdom in an age of artificial intelligence. That's what we're going to talk about this morning. And it is a weird time to be parenting. It's a weird time to be alive. It's a weird time to be trying to live a wise life. Let me just kind of say this as we get started. I am no anti-technology Luddite. I like technology. I like AI. I like artificial intelligence sometimes. I think it's pretty interesting, some of the things that we can do. Let me just kind of take an unofficial poll real quick. How many of you would say you use AI on a regular basis? Okay, maybe more than I expected. How many of you would say, I do not use AI on a regular basis? Okay, quite a few. How many of you would say you use social media on a regular basis? Okay, I just want you to know that if you raised your hand on that question just now, you also use AI on a regular basis. I don't know if you're aware of that or not, but chances are, whether you think you're using AI or not, you are. We're using it constantly, or it might be more accurate to say it's using us a lot. In fact, I just read a quote. This is from the Great De-Churching book. And they were quoting one of their preacher friends, and he said this, and I think that every minister in here could resonate with this, but I think it probably resonates with all of us. He said this: I'm wrestling with a new challenge as a minister. Artificial intelligence, using neural networks and sophisticated machine learning algorithms, is shepherding my church into the valley of the shadow of death. The algorithm, to misquote Psalm 139, he says, has searched them and known their hearts. The algorithm has searched them and known their hearts. It tests them and measures their anxious thoughts. It has woven digital models of them in its silicon womb, so it can sell their everlasting data to the highest bidder and keep them addicted to the online platform it serves. I want us to recognize that when we talk about wisdom in the age of artificial intelligence, it's not just what we call large language models, the ChatGPTs. It is the algorithm, the AI-driven, the AI-powered algorithm that is feeding us nearly everything we see. There is an artificial intelligence that's deciding, it's guessing. That's what artificial intelligence does. By the way, the most important part of that is artificial. It's artificial. It's not real. It's pretend. It's pretending to be intelligent, and it's taking everything, and it is guessing what you want to see, what you want to hear, what you want to think about. And in fact, I thought this was a really interesting argument that social media has really become a very sophisticated AI-powered television. In fact, Meta, the parent company behind Facebook and Instagram, Meta recently argued that they are not a social media company. Do you know that? Because they're not social. Because most of the time you spend on Facebook or Instagram, you're not actually interacting with friends anymore. You are consuming a steady stream of video. Meta argued this: today, only a fraction of time spent on Meta services, 7% on Instagram, 17% on Facebook, involves consuming content from online friends. A majority of time spent on both apps is watching videos, increasingly short-form videos that are unconnected i.e., not from a friend or followed account and recommended by AI-powered algorithms. Meta developed as a direct competitive response to TikTok's rise, which stalled Meta's growth. So if you're on things like Facebook or Instagram or TikTok or Sora or YouTube or Netflix, what we're talking about is this AI-powered video stream that is keeping us constantly watching something. And AI, the artificial intelligence that's out there, is simply guessing what would make you happy, or sometimes more often than not, what would make you angry, or what would make you scared. And it's really good at guessing. AI is really good at guessing. You know, in the old days, it was just that we would start typing a sentence and then it would guess what word we probably want to say next, and it would make it a little bit easier for us. Now it's guessing all kinds of things. And that algorithm is guessing what will make you happy, what little cute puppy dog video might you want to see, or what latest political rant might you want to see. What's going to make you scared? What's going to make you angry? And not for your best interest, for the best interest of shareholders, so that your attention will stay captured. And really, this came from an article that says everything is TV. Everything is TV now. It's just that it is a AI-powered television that is guessing what do you want to see next. Even things like Netflix are guessing what might you want to see next. What is going to keep you watching? And that article said this: when literally everything becomes television, what disappears is not something so broad as intelligence, although that seems to be going too, but something harder to put into words and even harder to prove the value of. It's something like inwardness, the capacity for solitude, for sustained attention, for meaning that penetrates inward rather than swipes away at the tip of a finger. Sustained attention, meaning that penetrates inward. Do you know what we won't find? What it will be almost impossible to find if we lack the ability to sit quietly and to think long and hard about the same thing for a sustained amount of time, to contemplate penetrating ideas and questions. Do you know what we will lack if we don't have the ability to do that? The ability to just sit still and be quiet and think about something that's difficult and that makes us uncomfortable. You know what we won't have if we can't do that? Wisdom. Wisdom. We cannot have wisdom if we lack the ability to sit still and sit quiet and think about hard things. Think about things that make us uncomfortable. Think about things that convict us. Think about the meaning of life and the meaning of the universe and why are we here and what are we doing and what is all of this about, if we don't allow ourselves to do that, because the algorithm is always giving us something else that says, wouldn't you like this? Wouldn't this be more fun to think about? Wouldn't this be more fun to watch? Wouldn't this be more fun to listen to? And they're constantly serving up a steady diet of distraction. We will not be able to have wisdom. Here's what Proverbs says. It's not on there. Here's what Proverbs says. My son, if you receive my words and treasure up my commandments with you, making your ear attentive to wisdom and inclining your heart to understanding, yes, if you call out for insight and raise your voice for understanding, if you seek it like silver and search for it as for hidden treasures, then you will understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. Throughout the book of Proverbs, wisdom must be sought. You have to make your ear attentive. That was from Proverbs chapter 2, verse 1, by the way. Make your ear attentive. You have to incline your heart. You have to call out for wisdom. You have to raise your voice for it. You have to seek it. You have to search for it. But we might think, but why? Why do I have to work hard for wisdom, to seek it, to call out for it, to raise our voice for it? Because, after all, I've got ChatGPT. I don't need to really work hard to be wise, to seek out wisdom. I can just ask ChatGPT. And it's incredibly easy to do, isn't it? It's incredibly easy to do. And again, I'm not against ChatGPT. In fact, on our way here this morning, my wife and I, we were talking about getting parenting advice from ChatGPT. And she said, it's a lot cheaper than a counselor. And I agree. It is, for sure. And you'd be shocked at how often it's right. And as we were driving, and I wasn't even doing this for an illustration, but I asked her permission. Can I use this? This is really good stuff. And so as we're driving here, we're talking about the fact that we've been asking and ChatGPT parenting advice. And I said, but it's just guessing what you want to hear. It's just telling you what you want to hear. She said, well, what if I said that I did all kinds of bad things as a parent? You think it would call me out and tell me don't do that? And she said, I'm going to do that. I'm going to try that. So she tried this morning on the way here. She told ChatGPT, sometimes I scream and yell at my kids, and sometimes I throw stuff against the wall. I don't throw stuff at my kids, just in case somebody was watching, but throw stuff at the wall, and and I lose my temper with them. Is that okay? Is that behavior acceptable? And I said, yeah, I know it's going to say, well, I understand, and you've had a hard day, but it called her out and said, well, if you need some anger management classes, it actually was pretty good advice. And then I said, now tell it you were just kidding, just so that the AI knows. But so she wrote back to ChatGPT. She said, I was just testing you. I don't really do that stuff. Thanks for being honest. My husband didn't believe that you would give a good answer. So ChatGPT says this, you got me, smiley face. This is the AI. You got me, nicely done. And honestly, I'm glad you ran the test that way. It's actually a really smart way to see how I handle something sensitive and emotionally charged. Tell your husband he underestimated me a little. I promise, it really said that. So why? Why listen to what Solomon says, that wisdom has to be pursued, it has to be sought. You have to call out for it. You have to seek it. When it's really easy, you can get a free account. You don't even pay for it. And just type in your question and get the answer. Here's what I would say. Information is cheap. Wisdom is costly. And there's a difference. There's a difference between having information and having understanding. Wisdom is cheap, or rather information is cheap. Wisdom is costly. There's a difference between having information and having wisdom. ChatGPT can give you information, but it's worth exactly what you paid for it. Wisdom takes blood, sweat, and tears. Wisdom is costly. Information is cheap. There's even a difference between this, and I think we have to understand this, that there's a difference between being right and being wise. Now, ChatGPT can be right a lot. Sometimes it's not, just so you know. But it can be right. It cannot be wise. God is wise. The people in whom God's Spirit dwells are wise. It's like we talked about this morning, about the wisdom from above. You can be wise. ChatGPT can be right. ChatGPT can have information, not wisdom. And so, yes, it's fine. Information is good, and being right can be good, but there's something better. That's what I really want to encourage us today. Is that yes, you can use these AI tools, And you almost don't have a choice. You live in a world where they exist. You're going to be in a world where AI tools exist. But you have to understand that there is a difference between information and understanding. There's a difference between being right and being wise. Information is cheap. Wisdom is costly. And it's going to require that we put in the effort. The effort. That's what wisdom requires. It requires effort. It requires us seeking it, calling out for it. It requires us being uncomfortable. Information is cheap. Wisdom is costly. There's a book I would recommend. It's called Reconnected by Carlos Whitaker. And Carlos Whitaker, he spent 7 weeks without a smartphone. I know, it's hard to imagine, right? 7 weeks without a smartphone. And he spent the first few weeks at a monastery with some monks, and then spent the rest of the time at an Amish farm. And there were a lot of things in the book that I appreciated, but one of the things that I appreciated was this quote. He said, "We don't wonder anymore." And because we don't wonder anymore, you know what else we've lost? Wonder, as in awe and wonder type of wonder. He's saying because we don't wonder anymore, like, I wonder, who was in that movie? You remember that movie with that one lady and that one guy, and they did that one thing? And we don't wonder, because what do if you have that question? Pull out your smartphone and you look it up, right? And chances are AI is guessing what you wanted to find out even before you get to the end of the question. And we don't wonder anymore. You don't wonder, why is that? Why does this thing happen? Why, when this one thing happens, does that thing happen? And why does this other thing happen? And why do my kids always tend to do this thing? And why, as a parent, do I do that thing? And why, when I'm scared, does this thing happen? We don't wonder. We don't ponder. We don't ask questions anymore. We ask a question, but it's only for a moment, because then we can find the answer. And we've settled for being right rather than being wise. And we can find the answer instantaneously, so we don't wonder anymore. And he's saying that because we don't wonder, as in we don't ask questions, we don't wonder, as in stand in awe of God. We don't stand in awe of his creation and our place in the world. That word wonder or awe is very closely related to what the Bible calls fear. Again, I'm not sure what happened to my Bible verses on these slides. I apologize. Proverbs chapter 9 and verse 10 says, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is insight." The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Here's how one commentary defines fear. To fear God is to respond to him in awe, in trust, in obedience, and worship. In order to be wise, we have to stand in awe of God. We have to fall down before him in awe. We have to fear him. We have to trust him. We have to obey him. We have to worship him. We have to say, "Wow, isn't he amazing?" And we don't do that as much anymore. Why? Because all of our questions get answered like that. And we've settled for quick, cheap, easy answers rather than wisdom. We've settled. We've said, I'd rather be right than be wise. I'd rather have information than understanding. Because understanding and wisdom requires us to sit with the question for a long period of time. You don't get wisdom easy. You got to sit with the question and think about it. I'm not saying you have to sit with who was in that movie. That's not the question you have to sit with. But what is life all about? And what exactly am I supposed to be doing? And what does it mean to be a parent? And who is God? And what is my place in the world? You only get wisdom when you sit with those deep, probing questions for long periods of time. It's why so much happens when your kids go to church camp. It's why when you go on a camping trip and you leave the phones behind, or praise God, you can't get any cell service out there, and you see, it's not just the beautiful sunrise, the beautiful sunset. You know, you could get that same thing here. You just got to intentionally turn the phone off and put it away. You have to go for a walk, and Carlos Whitaker would talk about this in his book. Even now that he has his smartphone back and he has access to all those things, he'll go for a walk and he'll say, I wonder what the answer to that question is. And he'll just wonder. He'll just wonder, so that he doesn't lose his ability to wonder. And when we lose our ability to ask questions, we lose our ability to fear God. And when we lose our fear of God, we lose wisdom. So my question is this: what if keeping ourselves constantly entertained and even informed is keeping us from being wise? What if keeping ourselves constantly entertained, constantly comfortable, constantly happy, or maybe even constantly agitated about something, and constantly informed is keeping us from being wise? Because finding wisdom requires things like discomfort. It requires dissatisfaction. It requires sometimes desperation. What is it that Jesus says? I mean, think about the Beatitudes. Jesus says, blessed are those who hunger and thirst for the righteousness of God. You only find wisdom when you're hungry. You only find wisdom when you're thirsty. But we live in a world where we're not hungry and thirsty anymore because we have a constant diet of intellectual junk food. And just like our mama and daddy told us, you're going to ruin your appetite, we've ruined our appetite because we are constantly scrolling. And the algorithm says, don't you want to watch this? Don't you want to listen to this? Don't you want to think about this? It's so much easier to think about this. Yes, of course it's so much easier. It's so much easier. It's so much easier to think about what's going on in Washington, D.C. than what's going on in my heart. It's so much easier to think about what's going on in Hollywood than what's going on inside of me, because that convicts me, and that hurts. That's uncomfortable, because then I have to wrestle with, who is Wes? And is Wes living the way that he's supposed to? And am I parenting the way I'm supposed to? And am I being the husband that I'm supposed to be? It's so much easier to wring my hands about what they're doing out there. And so when the algorithm keeps me upset or angry or happy or just distracted and entertained, then I don't have to think about the deep probing questions. But when I don't think about the deep probing questions, I do not gain wisdom. You can't gain wisdom on accident. I mean, read Proverbs. You can't gain wisdom on accident. You only find it on purpose. And finding it is a messy work. It's a hard work, a difficult work. It requires blood, sweat, and tears. So, how can we cultivate wisdom in an age of AI, both in ourselves, but also in our children and our grandchildren? What are some of the things that we could do? Here are my 3 suggestions, and then I'll close with this. Number 1, question the questions. Sometimes a question is better than an answer. Again, we live in a world where it's very easy to just Google the question or just chat GPT the question, and then we've got an answer. But do you notice the way Jesus deals with questions? A lot of times when somebody comes to Jesus and asks a question, he doesn't give them an answer, he gives them a question. What if we did this more? What if we did this more? When we question the question, We question our questions, and we question our kids' questions, and we help them ask deeper questions, better questions, more probing questions. And they say, why does this work this way? Or why do I feel that way? Or why is this happening inside of me? And we say, that's a really good question. Let's think about that a while. And you know what? I would add to it this question. And what about that question? And I'm dealing with this question, and what about that? And we ponder these things together. We wonder together. We think about it together. We stand in awe together. Respond to questions with questions rather than giving ourselves an easy answer. Easy answers make us feel really good, don't they? Easy answers are really nice, and they just put a little bow on it. And if you're like me, you like certainty. And I love certainty. I love for things to just be wrapped up. Okay, I had a question. Now I have an answer. Now I feel good. Now I can go back to watching those silly cat videos. But maybe that's not what is best. Maybe what is best is for me to think about this question, not worry about the question, not be anxious about it, but ponder it and let it go deep and let it convict me and really think about it. Number two, this might be the most important one. Don't distract from the discomfort. Maybe not the most important, but certainly the one we don't think about the most. Discomfort is, uncomfortable, right? Nobody wants to be uncomfortable. But in the discomfort is where we grow. We grow in the discomfort. But I'll tell you, I'm just as bad as anybody. I'm just preaching to myself today, but this thing sits on my desk during the day, and I find myself doing the same thing that I get mad at my teenage boys for doing. When something is uncomfortable, when I'm like, where is that verse found? Or, I wonder, when I go from the introduction to the next part of the sermon, how should I do that? And before I know it, my phone is in my hand and I'm checking my email. Why? Because that's so much easier. It is so much easier to check my email. It's so much easier to check the weather. It's so much easier to say, well, I wonder what's going on in DC today. Let me check the news. I haven't checked that today. It's so much easier to distract myself from the discomfort. But when we distract ourselves from the discomfort, eventually we get to the point where we lack the ability to sustain our attention over a long period of time and think about something that's hard, that penetrates us, that makes us feel guilty, that convicts us. And when we lack that ability, we give up the pursuit of wisdom. If we really want to be people that pursue wisdom, that live wisely in this age of AI, we have to understand that these things, their job is to distract us from anything uncomfortable. They're great, right? When I was a kid and I was sick, you remember when you're sick? Price is Right. That's what I had. Price is Right. That's the only thing I had to distract from the flu was the Price is Right. And it only lasted, 30 minutes? And then it was soap operas. Come on. That's all we had. And now we have everything. Everything. It's great when you're sick. You want to be distracted from that because you just got to get through it, man. You just got to get through being sick. But it distracts us from everything. Everything uncomfortable, every uncomfortable conversation that you don't want to have. The uncomfortable conversations that you don't want to have with people at church. The uncomfortable conversations with your kids. The uncomfortable conversations with your spouse. The things you don't really want to think about. And your phone is just over there saying, hey, the AI's got some more stuff for you. This would be great. Just watch this. Just listen to this. And it's constantly distracting us. If we want to be wise people, then we have to say no. We have to decide intentionally that I won't be distracted by the AI, that I will allow myself to be uncomfortable. I'll allow myself to be uncomfortable because it's in the discomfort that I grow. I heard this just this week. Full disclosure, it was in a YouTube short or an Instagram reel. Okay, so the AI gave me this illustration. But this Harvard professor was saying that one of his coworkers, another professor at Harvard, that he did this study where they took individuals into a room, and for 15 minutes, not 15 hours, 15 minutes, they said, you're going to be in this room. There is nothing to do in this room. Nothing. Nothing to distract you. You have to just sit here quietly and do nothing, or there's a little button you can push, and it gives you a painful electric shock. So you have a choice. You can sit here quietly, don't do anything, or give yourself a painful electric shock. And he said the vast majority of people chose the electric shock. We would rather shock ourselves than be bored. And we distract ourselves from the discomforting boredom and dullness. And in doing so, we short-circuit our ability to find wisdom. Wisdom comes when we're uncomfortable, when we're bored out of our mind, when there's nothing else to think about except our own thoughts and our relationship with God and how we're doing in following Jesus. Number 3, this really is the most important one. Pray more than you prompt. Go to God more than Google, and talk to Christ Jesus more than ChatGPT. That should go without saying, but is that really how we operate? Do we really go to God more than Google? Do we really pray more than we prompt? Do we chat with Jesus more than we do with ChatGPT? I mean, think about that. The creator of the universe, the triune God, has a relationship with you, invites you into a relationship with himself, and says to you, it's not always going to be easy, but you're my child. I'm your dad. You can call me Abba. I love you. And I listen to you when you pray. I know every hair on your head. I know every need that you have. If you need something, ask me. Ask me. And you say, yeah, I mean, that's great. That's great. I know that, Father. But I mean, sometimes your answers take a while. ChatGPT is pretty quick. And Google responds immediately. Don't we know what we get from him is better? It's not instant, and it's not easy, and it's not cheap. It is costly for him and for us, but it's worth it. Here's what James says. This morning we read from James 3. Here's what he says in chapter 1. This is the little brother of Jesus. He says, if any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask who? God. Not Google, not ChatGPT, not Grok or any of the others. If any of you lacks wisdom, let him ask God, who gives generously to all without reproach, and it will be given him. But let him ask in faith, not with no doubting, for the one who doubts is like a wave of the sea that is driven and tossed by the wind. For that person must not suppose that he will receive anything from the Lord. He's a double-minded man, unstable in all his ways. If you lack wisdom, ask God. Ask God. And yeah, he might not give you a response immediately. That's not how wisdom works. In fact, if you ask him for wisdom, you might receive a challenge, something difficult. And it's through that challenge, it's through that experience, it's through that relationship, it's through that struggle that you actually gain wisdom. But I guarantee you, all of us can look at the wisdom that we have, that we've gained through hard-fought experience that God gave us to us by his grace, and we wouldn't trade that for a simple, cheap, easy answer from ChatGPT, would we? We wouldn't trade what we have from him for what AI can guess about. He gives us wisdom. And he does that so many times by giving us relationships and giving us challenges and difficulties, and he walks through the valley of the shadow of death with us. And he comforts us, and he strengthens us, and he says, I'm right there with you. If you lack, ask me. There's nothing wrong with getting information from all kinds of sources and places. But if you want wisdom, go to God. See, here's our problem. Our problem is that some of us are more in awe of AI than we are the great I am. We're in awe of it. We're terrified of it. I don't know what the next chapter holds. I don't know. It is kind of concerning, isn't it? I'm concerned about jobs. I'm concerned about learning. I'm concerned about school. I'm concerned about all kinds of things because of AI. But I don't want us to fear it. I want us to fear God. Fear God and keep his commandments. Scary technologies have come along before. But God is the great I am. He is the God. He is the one who was and who is to come. And if we spend all of our time standing in awe of the great AI, we will lack wisdom. The only way to have real, true wisdom is to fear God, is to be in awe of the great I am. He was here long before AI. He is here now, and he will be here long after. We have to teach our kids, turn off the screens, turn off the phones, turn off the social media, and listen to God. And sit alone with your thoughts and with prayer and talk to him. And yeah, you're scared. I'm scared too. You have questions. Me too. Let's ask him. And let's trust him that he really does give answers and that he really does grant wisdom. Thank you, church.